Well, in addition to the major parties this federal election, there are two left field, although you probably wouldn't call them left-wing parties, who are trying to make an impact. Those parties are, of course, run by Bob Katter and Clive Palmer, two gentlemen who hail from Queensland. I'm joined today by Damon Alexander from the School of Social and Political Science to chew through this a little bit and maybe provide some analysis. Thank you for joining me.
You're welcome, Ryan.
Generally speaking, I guess we might start. How should we view these two parties? Are they serious contenders in this federal election campaign?
I'd view them both more along the lines of nuisance value as much as anything. These sorts of parties have been standing candidates at every election that I can remember, whether it's the Citizens Electoral Council, whether it's obviously One Nation was the most prominent group in recent times. They're always there. They always get the same levels of support in almost the identical rural and regional areas. So I don't see them as being remarkably different than that. I suppose the one different, particularly with Katter's party, is the fact that they're obviously formed around a guy who's been in politics for 30 years, been in federal politics for a long time and knows his way around the place.
And when you say these sorts of parties, is that to suggest they have a similar constituency over the years, even though they are sort of reincarnated? They
seem to have, and there's slight differences between Katter and Palmer's party, but I see the emergence of the party around Katter as very much in the mould of Hanson, but without the race and immigration baggage that came along, which is, hasn't been, not that it's not there at all with Bob Katter and his history. He's had a number of controversial incidents, but it's never been front and centre with party or politics that's associated with him.
And would you go so far as to put Clive Palmer and the Palmer United Party on a level pegging with Bob Katter, or
I'd
not?
Put them a fair way behind that, to be honest. I think even though they've managed to stand candidates in all 150 seats this time round, I don't see a lot of depth. If you look at the policies, it's almost incomprehensible, the sorts of policy ideas that have come through that party. If you look at their website, it's incredibly amateurish, which really surprised me given the sort of background of Clive Palmer. It strikes me as almost an indulgence on behalf of a mining mogul, I suppose.
Okay. We did learn, of course, in 2004 with the election of Steve Fielding, who got a Senate spot based on, I think it was less than 2% of the vote, that with a small vote you can go places. So what can we expect from these parties? Might they end up either between them or one holding the balance of power?
It's really difficult to say, and John Madigan, the DLP member, is another good example of that in recent times, where depending on preference flows, which this time are incredibly complex, you never quite know what you're going to get. The most recent polls I've seen for Katter in Queensland, even in the most favourable areas, like the rural and regional seats that traditionally these parties have done well in, we're still only looking at between 4 and 5% of the vote. Now, with a really favourable...
That's for the lower house candidates.
Well, that's just the polling in general, which you'd expect to flow through into the Senate. And that's down from 11, 12% overall with the Queensland state election. If everything goes right, it's possible, if they get really favourable preference flows, that they may win a Senate seat in Queensland. I can't see Palmer getting within a bull's roar in any of the states, to be honest, and I very much doubt if either of them manage to do particularly well in the Senate in any other states.
And I might ask you to pull the crystal ball out a little bit here, because neither gentleman is a spring chicken, and at least in the case of Clive Palmer, he doesn't have a political career behind him. So should we not see a good showing, would that be the end of these parties in their current structure, do you think?
I think with Clive Palmer's party, definitely. I can't see any organisational structure there, particularly if they don't win a seat to sort of base a party around in the long term, despite the fact that they've tried to claim the mantle of the old United Australia Party, and they're talking about the former leaders being Lyons and Menzies and Billy Hughes, which I found really interesting.
We did see Kevin Rudd, of course, recently likening himself to Keating in the '93 election as well, so everyone can stand on the shoulders of giants.
We can try and do that, I suppose. I thought that was a particularly interesting stretch, but more power to them for trying to form some sort of tradition, I suppose. But Katter's different. Katter's been around for so long, and I have absolutely no doubt that he'll win the seat of Kennedy again. He's a very good local member and a really smart political operator.
All right then, well, we'll see what happens on September the 7th and the days afterwards.
Very soon.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.